Yo, what's going on guys? HyperX here, and today I want to talk about God of War Ragnarok. Of course, yesterday PlayStation had their showcase and they showed off quite a few different things. We're of course talking about various different games on the channel, so if you guys want to see what we have to say about Wolverine, Spider-Man, other things like that, then make sure you either check out the videos or keep it locked because we've got more stuff coming your way. But I have to talk about God of War. I've been so excited for this. I'm basically modelling my fitness journey on Kratos, alright? So this is, for me personally, the one that I was looking forward to seeing the most in the showcase. It is the one that I have been eagerly waiting to see even a glimpse of information, and they blew it out of the water with a full-blown gameplay trailer. Lots of cool new stuff to see. We get to see characters, we get to see new abilities, new locations, lots of cool stuff, and a grown-up Atreus. So in this video, I want to talk about what we saw and kind of just sort of share some of my impressions. So if you guys do enjoy this, a like would be super appreciated, and comment down below and let me know what you guys think of this. Right now, we don't have a release date for this. The trailer did not end with even a release window, so it does make me think that this is probably further off, whether that means end of next year or early 2023. Again, right now, we don't know. But let's talk about what we saw. So obviously, top level, trailer itself is incredibly awesome. Starts with Kratos sitting in a cave, so right off the bat you're like, yo, we're back, this is awesome. He's looking super cool with of course his like fur coat on as well, and then we see Atreus walk into the cave, and of course he is grown up. I mean, that was the expected thing given how God of War ended. It's fair to say that this is of course going to continue that saga, so Atreus is older. It is also worth mentioning, if you guys haven't completed God of War, I will mention a couple of things that happen at the end of the game, so if you don't want spoilers, maybe step away, but it's kind of important to be able to talk about the stuff that happens in this trailer, so just kind of keep that in mind. I'm not going to say what the ending is, but there's still a few things that if you know Norse mythology, you're going to know it anyway, but some of you guys, maybe it's new. That being said, I want to turn my attention firstly to the PlayStation blog post, because they had some sort of official information, some of the developers spoke about what they showed, and then we'll sort of dive a little bit deeper. They said, as you can see in the trailer, we're picking up a few years after the events of God of War in 2018. The freezing winds of Fimbulwinter have come to Midgard, making survival for Kratos, Atreus and Mimir in the Norse worlds even more challenging than before. They said while the last game built an enormous amount of trust and understanding between father and son, there is still a great deal of complexity in their interactions. You can of course see that in the trailer, that clearly Atreus still wants to get answers despite the fact that Kratos knows that this will invariably lead to some sort of conflict, a war of the gods, which, I mean, obviously that's where it's going to go. The game is called God of War Ragnarok. We're going to experience Ragnarok in some capacity. That being said, the blog post then goes on to say that following, of course, the complexity in their interactions, this of course ties in with Atreus' giant heritage and the hidden prophecy that only Kratos saw. Atreus is of course really curious, like most young people. He wants to understand more than anything, and in this case, he wants to understand who he could be. He's always had this sort of feeling of like, oh, I've got so much more power. The mystery, of course, of Loki's role in the upcoming conflict is something that Atreus can't let go of. And if you guys know Norse mythology, you will know that Loki is an integral character in the events of Ragnarok. Of course, Atreus wants to keep his family safe, but he also doesn't want to stand by and do nothing while the conflict consumes the Nine Realms. Meanwhile, Kratos still bears the knowledge of his past mistakes. He wants to spare Atreus the bloody lessons that he learned, and he wants to keep his son safe above all else. But there is of course some stuff they just can't ignore. So of course, together, Kratos and Atreus will have to make a choice about which path they will take. Whatever they choose will define the fate of all things living in the Nine Realms as Ragnarok approaches. They then go on to talk about some of the new stuff. They said that we get a look at, of course, the two main antagonists in God of War Ragnarok, being Freya and Thor, because of course the actions that happened in the game, Freya, who was once an ally, has now sworn vengeance for the death of her son, and they want to remind players that Freya is not just a terrifyingly powerful user of Vanir magic, she's also a formidable warrior, and this of course plays out in the fact that she's literally going toe-to-toe with Kratos in the trailer. But of course, on top of that, the big looming mystery is Thor himself. We saw that clip show up at the very end of the previous game, and of course he's suffering from the loss of his sons and his half-brother, so this is going to play a big component in the game. Mimir refers to him as the biggest butchering bastard in the Nine Realms, so I mean, obviously you know Thor, right? He is not someone to take lightly. They also showed off some of the character renders, by the way, which look fantastic. Some people, depending on, of course, whether you follow Norse mythology or whether you follow more so the Marvel films, some people are like, what the hell have you done with Thor? Thor's character design, I love it. It's awesome. This is much more true to Thor in Norse mythology, of course, with the red hair. Given the amount of ale he consumes, the amount of food he consumes, he's going to have a big belly, right? And this is much more of a strongman physique. When you think about the power that Thor has, the power to just like tear down mountains and rip through giants, This is the body of that kind of person. He's not a Marvel six-pack ab guy, he is this unit. But either way, let me know what you guys think down below. I think it's super cool. They've been showing a load of different character renders. I really like what they're doing with them. But of course, moving on from there, the blog post then goes on to talk about some of the combat stuff. They said it wouldn't be God of War without a healthy serving of visceral and spectacular combat. They said you've now seen just a hint of the new attacks and new abilities, new runic summons for Atreus, which is super cool. Of course, he's always had that affinity with animals, given the Loki link. And in previous games, you were able to call in sort of small spectral animals, but you can see him riding on the back of a giant stag, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more of those as well. And we, of course, have the return of both of Kratos' legendary weapons, the chains and the axe. They said as the team have worked super hard on their learnings from God of War in 2018, they want to improve on combat and make it feel fresh yet familiar. They said one of the main goals was to push the player choice in combat, whether it's through hard-hitting combos, a mastery of elements, or clever defensive tactics. They want to give you plenty of different options to fight as a duo in combat. They say whatever your choice of combat strategy, the enemies that await you in God of War Ragnarok will be ready, the realms have grown harsher, and a whole host of new creatures from across Norse mythology will test your skills, which is really cool because one of the sort of gripes in the original game, one of the sort of complaints from some players was that there were a lot of repeat enemy types, so we can already see from the trailer some new creatures, some sort of centaur-like creatures as well, so they're already definitely going to be improving that roster. Finally, the last thing the blog post says that, of course, fans who played the last game will know that you're able to visit 6 of the 9 realms during their journey. In God of War Ragnarok, you'll be able to visit all 9. So, of course, that means we'll have access to Vanaheim, Svartalfheim, and Asgard, which is going to be incredibly exciting. I cannot wait to go to Asgard. That is going to be incredible. They said on top of that there will also be new areas featured in the last game, so exploring the realms will take you everywhere from verdant, otherworldly jungles to intricate subterranean mining networks. So basically, new combat, new abilities, new enemies, new locations, everything you loved before, but just more. Now, outside of that, there are a couple more things worth mentioning. Of course, at the very end of the trailer, we also get to see Angrboda, who is, in mythology, Loki's mate, and therefore, by extension, the mother of Fenrir, Jormungandr, and Hel. So, the fact that we see her, clearly that's going to have an angle to play in the game. In fact, they actually said in the interview that while it does give us a pretty good hint at something that might happen in the game, they also said that, again, Sony Santa Monica have this tendency to throw a monkey wrench into the mythology to fit their narrative, so I'm sure things won't play out as we expect. We also get to see Tyr, who is the Norse god of war, and he is huge. I mean, he's supposed to be big, but it's quite funny just to sort of see, for once, someone make Kratos look small. So seeing those guys go toe to toe, I mean, if there's any elements where you kind of get to fight alongside him, ooh, that is going to be so awesome. It's also worth noting that we will also meet Odin as well. Of course, you know, again, given that the focus is Ragnarok, you can't have that without Odin as well, but a lot of focus has been placed on Thor because, of course, the link, and we, of course, see him at the end of the previous game, but we do have a voice actor for Odin as well, who is Richard Schiff, so that's also confirmation that we'll have an encounter with him in the game. So for the time being, that's kind of all we have to go on. That's sort of a little rundown of what we've seen, what we've heard, and what the kind of interviews said. Again, as and when we find out more, as and when we get to sort of learn more about the game, some of the new abilities, some of the new locations, I'll be sure to bring you guys more videos. But for the time being, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and keep it locked for plenty more. If you want to catch more from us at HyperX Gaming, don't forget you can catch the guys TwoSixNine and Paradise Central streaming over on Twitch weekdays, playing a variety of games. If you guys want to jump in, tune in, watch, and even join in, then make sure you check them out. The links to those are in the description box down below, and of course you can join the Discord to get involved in all of the discussions.